come on in, get your favorite seat. You got your cup of coffee ready to go. We're in winter mode here. I don't know where you are, but we're in winter mode. So I'll be inviting you to, get your favorite cup of coffee and, of course, your favorite seat. And we're at the last, we haven't had a book study that lasted this long. And I was thinking this morning as I was preparing my own space for the book study that somehow, and I think this is probably common for you guys too, somehow this material of Atmananda is having a residual effect on the bill-free mind. At least that's what my hope is. And we're super happy to be joined with Jenny Beal today. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Bill. Hi, everyone.
We were going to have Susan, but she's probably watching on her iPad. She's taken on one of her grandchildren's little germ things, and she has a little bit of a cold. So we've asked Jenny to take her spot. And when I learned that, I thought, well, Jenny's teaching a class starting this Sunday. She's going to begin a weekly class in Evolve that we wanted to invite you guys to know about. And it really, I'm really looking forward to what this class is going to be. And Evolve is sort of growing into an online community every day. And Jenny has agreed to teach a class called The Path of Understanding. And it's going to be amazing. And I've asked Lindsay to put a description in your email that you received today about this book study. So you got an email and you got a link. And also we have extended a 25% discount for you just for this book study. If you decide to join us and look at the Evolve community, you're welcome to take advantage of that. And that's the commercial. And then we'll get started on the book study and the reason that we're here. And thank you all for being here. And Jenny, thank you for being a spontaneous substitute when one of us is sick. And appreciate that a lot.
You're welcome.
So we're looking at 401 to 410 in the Discourses. And the first one is heart and prema.
Yeah, so just to explain first what prema means, it's a Sanskrit word and it means unattached love, so love that makes no demands. And what he's talking about in the first paragraph is really love without a phenomenal object. So love of truth, love of love itself, love of reality. And but then he goes on to talk about literature and including spiritual literature, and saying that human love, literature about human love, is one style found best suited to clothe the highest truth through the message of love, or prema, of unattached love. And that reminded me of the poems of Rumi and in fact the Sufi tradition in general, where love for a person is used as a metaphor for love of consciousness, the self.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like the agape, a little bit like agape love.
Yes, yes, yeah,
It's what most of us aren't familiar with when we think we're in love. There's a definitely that hard glimpse that is the inertia, but it turns into conditional love, I think.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, what do you think this term, the heart is always wet, means.
Yes. I don't think it can be explained in any other words. I know what it means. He contrasts it with the dryness of intellect or the mind, and the heart is always wet. It's somehow it dissolves in love, even love for a person. And when you fall in love, then there's a kind of dissolving. And if you think of wet, then then something hard or less wet would be ice. But wet is something liquid, something dissolving. And I think that's really what he's referring to. It says it takes you straight to the self or Atma and drowns you in it. So drowns you, so you as a separate entity just dissolve in it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple of suggested ideas about it in the chat. Uh, funny. There was, yes, the use of the term wet. Amy said wet reason and wet heart language, dry. Yes. Jenny, would you say mathematics is like language?
Yes, it is. But actually, in both cases of language and mathematics, when there's understanding, then that goes straight to the heart. So when you suddenly understand a proof in mathematics, there's this feeling of love. There's this feeling of joy, of love, and it goes straight to the heart. And the same with language, with Rumi's language about love. Although that's language, and some of it is reason, then but it goes straight to the heart.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that. And then Andrew or Holger said wet equals juicy, alive. Yeah. Perhaps wet equals fluid, Kendall said. Dan said sneha in Sanskrit. Is that sneha? Is that something like wet?
I don't know that word. And the Shankaracharya always contrasted prema with moha, which is attached love. It's love which does make demands. Prema being this unattached, free love, love for love. It's for the sake of love itself.
Yeah. Well, and the reference that he gave that you mentioned, that it's just drowning in this love experience. I like the idea of letting presence or love or awareness, let that be the thing that overwhelms me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you're going to be overwhelmed by quiet or by presence, or you could say love.
Yes.
I'm overwhelmed. Oh yeah. I'm overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
by this presence. It's totally a different, gives a totally different way of imagining or allowing that word to be used.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's and he refers to the Upanishads, and then on the following page he uses a verse that shows the phenomenal ideal of what he's calling prema.
Yes. yes, and again, that's in a way that's a kind of explanation of how Rumi comes to use the word love in that metaphorical sense, because yes, it says when someone comes to be in love, then the one who's loved is then a source of happiness beyond compare. And being near that person brings contentment, even if there's nothing done. Just in itself, that company brings happiness and banishes all discontent. And that's something we know. But it also, most importantly, brings this sense of lack of separation. We feel one with that person.
Yeah, it's. Do you remember hearing Rupert speak about love in that way, where initially love is the absence of a sense of separation, what you just
Yes,
said,
yes,
and so that's the initial love before the expectations become attached.
yes, yeah.
Right. That's like that spark, like that, and sometimes it's for long period of time, and you're just like over the hills. You're just out of your mind in love, and it's that uncontainable presence, really, that initiates that falling in love experience, I think.
Yes, that's right. And then typically in a relationship, um, that overwhelming love sort of settles down a bit. Then sometimes people um, quarrel a bit when they adjust to each other, but then if you're lucky, the relationship um, becomes one of real love, real prema again. And that's when the sense of separation is just gone completely. And it's exactly as the poem says, that just being near that person brings contentment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, nice. Okay, well, and
And of
Rick,
course, for a lot of people, that doesn't work, and they just go from one person to another to another. And it seems like love to start with, and then um, yeah, then they never they never allow it. They never allow that love to fully develop.
well, it's mostly because the mind that thinks that it's separate comes in and starts managing things, and
Yes,
we don't really yet. We don't have a culture that really supports the awakening experience, so
yes,
that 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 thing that manages, that wants to manage and with conditions, it takes over and screws the whole thing up.
yeah,
Unless you unplug from that, and it happens to the best of us. I mean, uh, there's probably no one here that hasn't had relationship kind of management issues or problems. Yeah, we've all seen it or experienced it, and it's when you're on the other side of it, you can look back and say, yeah, sure. So I'm sure happy that's not, either you're not in the relationship anymore and you just have yourself to deal with, or maybe you're a widow or something like that. But or you're on the other side of it, and I can speak that way for myself. I've been through this, my third marriage, but the even with a spiritual partner, you can have problems, and you can find your way through the chaos and the conflict, and be on the other side of it and look back, go, oh my God, I'm so happy I'm on the other side of that.
yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So looking at 402, the next question is what is at the root of question and answer? This is a good one.
Yes, so he's saying that all questions come from consciousness itself. And it's sometimes said in the direct path that all questions contain their own answer. And I guess that's really saying the same thing. But he says every question proceeds from the answer, which always stands as experience, far beyond the realm of mind. So the answer always takes you to experience. And it goes on, therefore questions are many, but the ultimate and correct answer to all questions is only one, and that is the changeless Atma, the reality. And his final sentence, every question springs from the striving of the mind to bring down that pure experience to the realm of the mind. Well, that's true, but it's actually important that that questions, because all questions do come from the mind, or they come from consciousness via the mind. They're formulated by the mind, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't ask questions, because since ancient times, the highest level of spiritual teaching has always been imparted through question and answer. There's really two methods: question and answer, and sitting in silence with your teacher. So the highest level is not about practices or disciplines. It is just about that question and answer. So we shouldn't discourage questions in ourselves or in anyone else. We need to honor them and satisfy them. And if we can't satisfy them within ourselves, then we ask our teacher.
Yeah. Questions aren't, they can be thought of as someone that's not mature, or they can be thought of as someone that they're just engaged with the ego mindset, or you can consider questions to be a valuable component in your understanding, a valuable component in relaxing the either the agitation or the curiosity or the thing that brings you to the place of understanding.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like Francis Lucille. He's funny. When I first met him, he carries this very kind of a firm thing, and he won't say anything. He tries. I don't know that he tries, but he doesn't allow himself, or he doesn't show up as someone that's really conversive at first, until you kind of break the space, or the space is broken by questions. Without the question, he just sits there like,
yes.
And at first it's very uncomfortable.
Yes, he sometimes said, well, no questions, no meeting.
Right.
So that's the end of it. Usually at that point, someone finds a question from somewhere.
Yeah. He's a bit, not anymore, but for me, he was a little bit intimidating when he would just sit there, and if I complimented him, it was like it was like, did I just can I get a little something? It was funny. Yeah.
Yes, he does have a sense of humor, but he doesn't respond to being complimented. He doesn't
Right.
like it too much.
Right. Yeah. He's not the only one, and it's almost a little bit of an example, because the thing that really does like the compliments is this.
Yes.
Right. That's the thing that really, oh, thank you. Oh, yes, this. Right. I mean, there's a kind of a funny sense where you can say thank you and be just open, just generous in receiving it, and not being really egoically receptive. And then there's an egoic side of it, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. He likes it when people argue with him, actually,
he
when they
does. Yeah,
disagree and argue. Not that many have the courage to do that, but
I've noticed that.
it's great, and you often have a lot of fun when you argue with him.
Yeah, yeah. Rick says it seems we often need to use the phenomena Q&A to move us beyond it to the noumenal understanding.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, I have a space. We have 6 meetings left. I have a space. Love to see you here for one more for these discourses, one more co-host position. Fill that, and then we'll be finished in January, about the first week, and then we're not going to pick it back up again until April. So I'd love to have you jump in. Loved having you the last time. Okay, so 403. What is the difference between sat and life?
Yeah, so sat is the Sanskrit word for being or existence or substance. Could also call it the ultimate reality. And so he says, really along those lines, sat is the greatest generalization of objects, gross as well as subtle, and is the principle of existence itself. It comprehends both animate and inanimate objects. By comprehends, I think he means includes both animate and inanimate objects.
Okay.
And he says, life, which is but the first emanation from sat, comprehends only animate objects, includes only animate objects. In this light, sat may very well be called a broader view of life. So he's saying basically that life is it's just part of the manifestation of consciousness, and sat is the generalization of everything that is manifest from consciousness.
Right, right. More, it's all inclusive, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, it includes things that are not alive, so not animate.
Yeah.
And it includes objects that don't have a physical reality as well.
Right. Amy said, could we call sat a movement in consciousness?
Yes, you can think of manifestation as being the movement of consciousness, but it has the sense of being. It's the amness of something, or the isness of something.
Mm-hmm. And Sat Chit Ananda is, I mean, it's spelled out as truth, knowledge, and bliss, or some variation of that.
Yes, being, consciousness, and bliss. So chit being consciousness or awareness.
Or knowing.
Yes, or knowing.
Yeah.
Really synonymous in that sense. But
Right.
sat is the existence side.
Okay. Right.
So really, like we were talking about last time with I am. Then I is the consciousness part, and am is, so that's the chit part, and am is the sat part.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I love those two words. As everyone here does also. What is the significance of address? This is an interesting idea.
Well, I struggled with what he meant here, and my best guess is it's the combination of your name and title. And then when you recognize that you're not a person, a man or a woman, and an object called Jenny or an object called Bill, then, as he says, you are dispossessed of your address.
Yeah.
But it's a strange word. It's not the way we normally use it.
Yeah. It's
When it's
almost, yeah,
you,
it's like your identity,
yeah,
your label or your personal
your
self-identity.
the label um, given to your body mind. I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is tricky. We're gonna hit the place where when the words speak to the you,
Mm.
that's the tricky part because you have to have an understanding that at least momentarily disconnects the you from the this, from the personal, from the address, from
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
the you that he's speaking to often is not the you that is the personal self.
Yeah. Yes.
He's speaking to the you that's the same you that each one of us can accept.
Yes. The universal self versus the um, an individual body mind. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
And Jude, what does a house wear? An
Address.
address. Funny. Yeah, that's
It
funny.
always makes me laugh when in the UK the police always talk about addresses. So we're going to raid an address. And to me, an address is just a label for a house. You're not going to raid an address, you're going to raid the house.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So moving to 405, meditation. I love this word, and I love what the implication and direct experience of meditation brings.
Yeah, so he's talking here about objective meditation. So he says meditation is yogic when the mind is concentrated on any one object, or when the prana, the breath, is controlled in the slightest manner. And that's what's normally meant by meditation. Unless you're following the direct path, then that's generally what you would mean by meditation. And he's saying the latter must only be done in the presence of an experienced guru, otherwise it's liable to innumerable pitfalls. Well, even if there is an experienced guru, there's still pitfalls, and which may cause ailments, physical as well as mental. Um, I'm not sure about the physical ones. Maybe I don't know whether Jenny's here, but I suspect perhaps deep vein thrombosis or the ailments that come from lack of physical exercise. When some of these practitioners in India, they meditate for 6 hours a day. They don't get any exercise. I guess those would be pitfalls. But really, the main pitfall from a spiritual point of view is that you get stuck in the world of objects. And you either get stuck with the object that you're focusing on, or you let go of that object and you get stuck in a blank object. And that happens to pretty much everyone who practices this sort of meditation. And if you do have an experienced guru, then there's a chance that they will detect when that's happening and help you get out of it.
Yeah. But the the thing that I used to think meditation was to quiet the mind, to have some kind of experience that you that happened from sitting uncomfortably for a long period of time. And when I found Rupert and I learned that meditation is this direct experience of being, oh my God, it took on a whole new experience.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And you can meditate all day. In fact, that's what you do.
yes, yes. Francis describes meditation in two ways. He says that there can be formal meditation where you sit down and you do nothing, and you're just resting as being, and but the real meditation, or the other type of meditation, is whenever you don't believe that you are a separate entity, you are meditating.
That's good. That's good. And it's a visceral, and it's something that's felt and known.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving to 406, this is, I mean, these keep, whenever I see these two words together, I always think of you, Jenny. Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I mean, it's like, drill it in, Bill. Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Yeah,
Yes. So
because you've really helped to illuminate what that really is. That's the samadhi. That's the one. That's the high mark.
that's the important samadhi. Well, two important samadhis. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, on the path and to help you on the path, and Sahajata Samadhi, which is once you're established as your true nature. So Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it's just pure consciousness, consciousness without perception, sometimes called consciousness without objects. And the reason it's so useful and helpful on the spiritual path is because it enables you to distinguish between mind and consciousness, because it's an enormous confusion, particularly among scientists. They nearly always confuse the two. So Nirvikalpa Samadhi, pure consciousness, consciousness without objects, so there can be no mind present. So the two are quite different. Mind stops and starts, but Nirvikalpa Samadhi, pure consciousness, is always there. And he's saying it's the pleasant coolness you experience as a result of the firm conviction that you alone exist and you do not see anything or do not see at all. So that's the lack of objects. You don't see anything. He's also effectively saying don't hear anything either. It's a complete lack of any objects of perception.
And would you say that most people have glimpses of this, even unaware?
Yes, I mean everyone has everyone experiences consciousness without objects because that happens between thoughts. When one thought ends before the next begins, there's a tiny gap, and That's consciousness in the absence of objects. And we're more likely to, if we're not on a spiritual path, those not on a spiritual path are more likely to notice it when they're about to go to sleep, when they're just going to sleep, or when they're just waking up. Then there's more, it's kind of longer gaps, really. So those gaps are natural. It's that's also called natural samadhi, and sometimes it's suggested for people who just have problems sitting and doing nothing and experiencing nirvikalpa samadhi. Their minds don't like it and they won't let go. Then just being able to extend those gaps between perceptions is often an easier way for them.
Right. And the sahaja samadhi.
Sahaja samadhi is when the recognition that I am consciousness pervades all of our experience, and not just that I am consciousness, but everything is consciousness. And that's really when we just don't feel ourselves to be something separate. We feel I am everything. So nirvikalpa samadhi is more like the I am nothing. I just disappear into nothingness, because no thingness, no objects. And sahaja samadhi is I'm aware of the world, I'm aware of objects, or objects are present in this awareness that I am, and I am all of it. I'm everything that I'm aware of. I'm everything that exists.
Yeah. That could be equated to the peace of God, or the peace that passes understanding, maybe.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So he's saying at the end exactly that. If you accept the body, accept also the world with it. If not, accept neither. So either I am everything or I am nothing, but I'm not something. I'm not the body. I'm not. If I'm the body, then I'm everything.
Yeah. And you're not a subject either.
Yes.
You're just you.
Yeah.
You're just you. Yeah. And let's see, Andrew had a question. What does samadhi bring to the spiritual journey?
Well, nirvikalpa samadhi is really what I said. Is it's very important to recognize that mind and consciousness are different. And the reason it's important is because if you feel that they're the same, then what you will feel is, even if you feel I am consciousness, you will feel that this consciousness that I am is dependent on the body mind. So it will die when the body dies, mind will die and consciousness will die. So it's by distinguishing mind and consciousness, it's really important. Then you open the door to the understanding that your true nature is eternal. So that's part of it. So samadhi is is really, in a more general sense, is a sense of is a state of bliss. Um, it's a state rather than a state of the mind in a sense. So it's helpful. Sahaja Samadhi is helpful because it means that you enjoy not being in ignorance. You enjoy life, even though you know that there is no separate entity, even though you know that there's nothing special about me, this body mind. Even though you've given all of that up, there's still happiness, there's still joy. And that's why it's called Sahaja Samadhi. It's a natural joy. It's the natural joy of feeling I am everything. I am not this individual special thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Sahaja is, as another definition, I think it's the natural state. Yes.
Yes. Sahaja Samadhi, the natural state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick said, can we say that there is no being in samadhi, a non-experience?
There's always being. There's always the ultimate being. So in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you could say that there's no awareness of objects, but I think there's a sense of being. I don't think you lose that. In my experience, you don't lose that sense of beingness, but that beingness is instead of being contracted, is is just kind of expanded into nothingness. Really, it's where really non-duality tells us that being and consciousness are the same, are one.
Yeah. Yes. Being is peace, recognized itself.
Yes.
Yeah, the experience that Ramana had when he first arrived at Arunachala, where he was like, he couldn't take care of himself. That seemed like he was in this Nirvikalpa Samadhi state. When I read or watch the old documentaries, he bugs were eating his flesh, and he had to be cared for by people that noticed him.
Yes, that's quite possible, and obviously that's not a practical situation to be in. Really, the problem that he was facing was that he didn't have a guru. He didn't have anyone to help him on the spiritual path. So he had this amazing glimpse, and it actually took him many years to really learn how to live what that glimpse told him.
Yeah.
And initially he couldn't, and that's really the problem of not having a teacher.
Yeah. There was a Swami that found him, and once he realized what he was experiencing, he dedicated his life in service to take care
to
of him.
looking after him. Yeah.
Susan Wright Jenny, you should do a paper on this. Good discussion. Yes, I agree. Totally. He said when you he said that this body in the, I guess in the, this must be in the Upanishads. Yes? Is that where this language is?
I think that's the
Oh,
Ashtavakra Gita.
Bakr. Yeah.
Yeah, this body here shines by my light. It is shown by me alone. In other words, this body is just the manifestation of myself consciousness. The same is true of everything in the entire universe.
Yeah. And this is where I was sort of noticing this body here shines by my light, and it's this my is the I am. It's a formless presence is the my. It's shown by me alone. That's the formless presence is the me. And then thus either everything is mine, it's talking about just this pure being that's mine. It's not a location, it's not a subject. It's pure presence is what I think is being described here, yes?
Yes, yeah.
And Lynn says, does the body exist only as a thought?
No. No, the body isn't a thought. The body is a manifestation of consciousness. The body as we see it, as the physical form that we that we see, that is composed of thought. So, in other words, the experience of that, the perception of our body is modulated by our senses. So we see our body, we can see parts of it, we see more of it in the mirror, and that's modulated by mind. So in a sense, that's a thought in mind. But the reality of our body, no, that's a manifestation of consciousness that we have no reason to suppose it has no dependent existence. It has no it certainly doesn't have independent existence, but it has. We have no reason to suppose it doesn't have dependent existence on the universe as a whole. That the universe is dependent existence on consciousness.
So you could say that consciousness creates a filter for survival that gives it reduces itself to in the manifesting experience. It reduces itself to the senses for survival in a time and space experience. And that is a filter that is used by consciousness reducing itself to this experience.
Well, yes, consciousness doesn't really reduce itself or narrow itself, I mean, consciousness is just consciousness, but part of its manifestation is mind, and mind is really an agency. for perceiving, for perception. Well, our senses,
But it's
our
only,
body, mind, they're all an agency of perceiving.
and
So then they're
it's still
not.
consciousness, though.
Yes, it's still consciousness.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, conscious. It's so you could say it's still God.
It's
It,
it's all God. Yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Um,
It's somehow it is uh, uh, and this is where it's important to say that the illusion isn't really nothing. Maya isn't really nothing. It's just a distinction between something that is changeless and always exactly always what it is, and yet there's there's a seeming substance or a seeming manifestation of this uh, refracted experience or reduced.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's described so beautifully in the tantric tradition as Shiva and Shakti, and Shiva and Shakti are one, but Shakti is the dance of Shiva, and the dance of Shiva is what manifests the whole of creation, the whole of the world.
Yeah,
It's not something mind can understand because mind has such narrow limits, and
right,
it can only see, it can only experience in a space-time context.
right, right. But that's one of the things I'm grateful for the direct path is that there's a mechanism that is known where our direct understanding is can be verified.
Yes, yes,
It's
exactly.
not like blind faith or
Yeah,
it's not something that you have to just believe.
no, no.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
that in my mind that's the big difference.
Yes, and it's compatible with genuine science, with real science. It's entirely compatible.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's one of the things I love about Bernardo Kastrup. That guy,
Mm.
I've mentioned this. He will tell you he's not awake, but that guy, he is a scientist that is having a direct experience of awakening from science, from
Yes,
his understanding and theory and the verification that he's having for himself through science.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's really amazing.
Mm.
Let's see. Uh, Susan writes, so would you say consciousness must manifest, know itself?
Was manifest in order to know itself. Um, I don't think so. I think consciousness can know itself without manifesting, but it knows itself in a different way when it does manifest. But it, in a way we're playing with words here when we even use the words know itself, consciousness knowing itself. Then what really is knowing? Knowing in that sense is just consciousness.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
just being.
consciousness all the way down, as it were.
Yeah, but it's a great question though,
Yeah.
because it's a natural. Does this mean that? And then also what you're saying is the implications are the words are they can't really say what is.
Yeah.
Rick says awareness always is. There it is, right there. One could argue that it precedes the movement of consciousness itself, which is in motion.
Mm.
Yeah. And then Dan says the most correct translation of 2-2 is, as I alone reveal this body, even so do I reveal this universe. Therefore, mine is all this universe. Where is this?
That's the Ashtavakra Gita.
Oh, I see. Okay. As I alone reveal this body, even so do I reveal this universe. Therefore, mine is all this universe. Or indeed, nothing is mine. Nitya Shwarapananda. From my light, the body and world arise. So all things are mine, or nothing is. Byron.
That's another translation. He's giving two. He's giving two translations here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. It's turtles all the way down, Rick says. Self-appreciation and love, Carol. Okay, so let's look at is prakriti really an obstacle to spiritual progress?
Yes. So prakriti, we're referring to the world, to physical world, to objects, and he's explaining that on a progressive path, he says, in the early stages of sadhana, when the aspirant is relying upon lower reason alone, the world of objects appears as an obstacle to his progress. So, on a progressive path, there's encouragement to really step away from objects of the world, and people are given all sorts of exercises. There's a lot about renunciation and so on. But then the idea is that will lead them ultimately to the direct path, just the highest level of teaching, even in progressive paths. Ultimately, the aspirant will be taken to the direct path. And then he says, gradually, as he begins to awaken his higher reason and begins to rely on Vidyariti, everything that appeared as an obstacle before gets transformed into help to lead him on to the ultimate. So Vidyariti is really clear seeing, of understanding.
Mm-hmm. This sounds like a really good sound practice. You know, for the progressive path, it sounds like it's a clear understanding of this. This is one way of realization occurring.
It's in the progressive path, it's a way which prepares you. It won't produce realization on its own, but all progressive paths have, if they're genuine ones, have at a higher level the direct path or some version of it.
Yeah.
Now, in a lot of cases, that's been lost. That direct path has been lost when it has become a religion.
Yeah.
Then typically the direct path aspects get lost.
Or a lived concept. Like A Course in Miracles has those elements of amazing progressive ideals and also a higher understanding of the non-dual, and yet the concepts can find people looped and
Yes.
never having a realized experience.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Eventually, the direct path dissolves into no path at all. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. 408 says, what is the most concrete of all things? This is awesome.
Yes. So he says concrete literally means real or changeless. And anything that has a name and a form is going to be constantly changing. So it's not going to be concrete because it's not real. That which changes isn't real. And he goes on, body, senses, and mind are changing. And it's only the I principle that is changeless or real. And in that sense, the I principle is the only concrete thing, and all else is but illusion.
Yeah. It's awareness. The I principle is awareness with no movement, no label, no, just is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the background of all experience. That is the witness of this that is not really this, it just is, right? It doesn't have any words to lay on top of it like I just did. What is the most concrete of all things? Awareness.
Yes.
Or you. Awesome. 409. How does Avaduta, how do you say that? Avaduta?
Avaduta path. So that's the path of an avadut, and it's really a path of renouncing the world and developing various siddhis or supposedly supernatural powers, and it's a bit of a dead end.
Is that a
Really.
yogi?
Yes, it's a yogic path, and he says most of the advocates are advised to cultivate an intense aversion to their own body, get rid of their attachment to it, and they end up doing yogic practices and acquire yogic powers.
I've seen those guys like put their lights out. I've seen those, where they lay down in a coffin and they stop breathing. And
Yes.
they put the cover on the coffin and carry them away. Right?
Yeah. Yes, they can reduce the bodily function to an absolute minimum, so they need very little oxygen.
Yeah. I
So
mean, that might be cool to learn how to do that if you wanted to, like, I'm done. Turn off the air. But that seems like that would be one of those powers, seeming powers.
Yes. Yeah, the traditional one lying on a bed of nails and things like that.
Oh.
It mostly it doesn't really lead anywhere. At best, he says, the practice is, if not misused, and I think usually they are misused, only prepare the ground for them to listen to the truth. So they have to ultimately they find a Karana guru and surrender to them, and are prepared to listen. to him, but quite difficult if you've acquired all these wonderful powers. Then are you really going to listen to a Karana guru who doesn't have them? So
Right.
could be a problem.
Yeah.
I think.
Could be a problem. You're funny. I like this next one, 410.
Mhm.
What is for Purana? Or I think it means I am, right?
It's not a word that I've come across as Varana. And how does it function? He says from the first stage, which is the unmanifested state of luminosity itself. So these are the stages of the I principle, to the second stage, becoming manifest as I know I am, or self-luminosity, is only a subjective change to I am. So you're just introducing a subject and object.
Yeah.
You're just introducing the concept of witness without losing its identity. And he's saying that's what's called as Varana. It has no object, but it's become self-luminous.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, it has got an implied object, which is the witness of its self-luminosity.
Yeah.
And compared with the unmanifested state of luminosity itself.
Okay. Yeah, and he's calling it this Purana.
Swarana, yes.
Yeah.
So, and then he's got the third stage, becoming manifested as objects, and that's the state of the jiva, but which is the individual. So, but he says that as to the ordinary man, then they're in that third state, basically. But the sage splits it up into two distinct parts: the I and the am intelligent. So the statement "I am an intelligent" is made by an ordinary man and the sage alike, but the sage splits it up into I and am intelligent, identifying himself with the I, the real I, and considering the second part an object or attribute. So, in other words, the jiva. The jiva constructs a separate self out of all of his attributes, out of all of his past, out of all of his memories, out of all of his attributes. Whereas the sage will say, yes, I am I, pure consciousness, but this body mind has these attributes. So that's fine. In other words, you could take any one of those three positions. You could say, I am nothing, the unmanifested state of luminosity itself. I am everything. I know that I am self-luminosity, but I am includes the everything. Or you can say, I am, as well as everything, I am this body mind, but I and this body mind, this body mind is just part of the everything, part of myself. I'm not really manifested as an object.
Right. Right.
I'm not
He's
really an
he's
object.
describing
Yeah.
awakeness.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. One not just a sage, but one who is obviously awake.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say love has exact parallels in the course of its manifestation. It's got pure love and self-love and love of objects.
Yeah, this is beautiful descriptions here.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah. And Dan, Dr. Bisgard, or Professor Bisgard, rather, the term Shvarana is from the Advaita Vedanta school of Hindu philosophy. It's a Sanskrit word that means vibration or pulsation. And Advaita Vedanta, Shvarana, is used to describe the dynamic nature of consciousness. It is said that consciousness is not a static thing, but rather a continuous flow of energy that vibrates in every part of the universe. This vibration is the source of all manifestation, and it is the essence of our own true nature.
And he also says it has a similar usage in Kashmir Shaivism, which is spanda, which is vibration. That's the word that's used in Kashmir Shaivism.
Yes. Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, Dan. That was brilliant. Loved it. Nice. Question from Andrew. What is the difference between self-consciousness and ego? Is there also pride and shyness in self-consciousness?
Yes, I mean, the way we normally use the word self-conscious, I feel self-conscious, it usually does refer to ego, but the way he's referring to it here, it doesn't. It's just knowing that I am. There is existence. There is something rather than nothing, and I am that. That's really what that's his description of self-consciousness. But
Yeah.
it is quite different, you know. Our normal use, it does normally refer to ego.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And everyone for your comments and awesome participation. Thank you all for being here. And one more thing, check your email because we sent you a link today that tells you about Jenny's class that starts on Sunday. And it gives a 25% coupon for a discount for that whole community and that whole class. So if you're interested in joining us, there's a benefit to checking your email. And thank you, Jenny, for being our substitute today, as always.
And thank you, Bill, for inviting me, and thank you all for all your comments.
Yeah, thank you. And I got your message, Rick. Blessings to you, brother. Thank you for your comments in the chat. And we'll see you all next week. I think Susan Telford will be our co-host next week because she was our Jenny substituted for her. So we'll see you next week.
I hope she'll be better soon.
I'm sure she will be. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.